G'day and welcome again to the Campfire Project. And this day we're having a discussion with Mick Hawes, who is the coach and CEO of Builders Business Black Belt. How are you, Mick?
Yeah, excellent. Alan, thanks for having me on the Campfire Project. First time.
Excellent. Good. Looking forward to getting you into a panel discussion after your one-on-one with Scott some months ago. And then we have Scott Carson, who is a men's coach and founder of the Sunday Sessions. How are you, Scott?
Yeah, fantastic. Thanks, Alan. It's nice to be sitting on a panel tonight. So I'm looking forward to learning as usual.
It's great because you're running the Facebook Lives on a Thursday night, which have been brilliant. So,
yeah, thank you. I'm enjoying them. I hope everyone else is enjoying them. I'm looking forward to bringing up some new subjects too. I've got some absolute crackers that I'm scared to take on. So we'll see how we go.
Oh, we're looking forward to that. And then we have Zoe Buckley, who is a tutor and creative. How are you, Zoe?
Yeah, really good, thank you. Yeah, great to be here again.
Looking forward to the panel today with all three of you. And today we're talking about the infinite game mindset. And this is something that I know, Mick, you've been using in your business in the coaching. So would you like to kick us off and explain to everybody, everyone who's listening, what the infinite mindset is all about, or the infinite game mindset?
Well, I will do my very best. My experience with it was like I was going through a pretty bad time from the middle of last year toward the end of last year. And I've just got the audible.com.au subscription where you just get a new book every month. And, you know, it was just one of those things that popped out and I clicked on it and started listening to Simon Sinek's book. And it really had a profound impact on me from understanding that, or learning through listening to that book, that most of the problems that we were dealing with our members who are fundamentally builders and right back, you know, when we were kind of generalist business coaches, I realized was stemming from what I was teaching and how I was teaching it. And it was a bit of a body blow in one sense, but also, you know, a blinding flash of the obvious and a really, you know, wonderful discovery in another sense. And that was that the difference between an infinite game and a finite game is best described the way Simon Sinek does it in the book, at least, is a finite game is like a game of footy or whatever. It's got a beginning and an end. It has agreed upon rules and known players. And at the end of the game, someone wins and someone loses based on the agreed upon rules. An infinite game has no end. You know, it's infinite. It goes on. Some of the players are known, some of the players are unknown, and there are no rules. There are fundamentally no rules. And an example of something that can't be won, such as an infinite game, is relationships, marriage. Like, you know, there's no winning. There's no winning. There's no real winning in politics. There's no real winning in life. You know, no one gets on their headstone, Mick won, you know. And then the final one, which is the one that sort of made most sense to me, is business. And the big blinding flash of the obvious is that we are playing an infinite game, which is business. There is no winning business. You might lead for a while, but somebody else is going to come along and take over and so forth. But most people, the majority of people, are playing an infinite game with a finite mindset. And what I discovered through understanding this is a lot of what I was teaching people to have that sort of winning attitude, finite mindset. And I was a business coach. So I'm coaching them to succeed in an infinite game and teaching them how, or trying to teach them to succeed with a finite mindset, and wondering why people were feeling distressed and pressured and so forth. And the most amazing thing happened when, like, the penny dropped, that I'm playing an infinite game, and the purpose of when you're playing an infinite game is it's not only for you to continue to play, it is for the game to continue. And so when you've got a finite mindset, at the end of the day, you'll either feel good or bad because you will either won or lost. But if you play an infinite game with an infinite mindset, your only purpose is to contribute to the continuation of that game. So even if you have a bad day, you can really feel satisfied and fulfilled that I have contributed. And it just took me from this quite dark place to a very exciting, enthusiastic place once again. And it just gave me a whole new lease of life to teach this. And it was almost like the key to the door to this secret that now I can teach these people to have the appropriate mindset for the game that they're playing, and at the same time eliminate a whole lot of unnecessary distress and pain and frustration and so forth.
Yeah, it sounds like something, it's not just in business, but it'd be in life, as you said, as well. It's it connects to what we're doing at home.
Totally.
Well, it's evolving, isn't it? It's always evolving. Yeah. Yep. And that's what I try and teach my students as well, is to help them understand what that means. Because you're quite right, there's no end to it. And they expect that, oh, I'll do this, like with mindfulness techniques that I use with them. I'll do this for 30 days and then that will be it. I won't have to do it anymore. And I go, well, no, the process is ongoing. You have to keep doing it. And then you move to another level of awareness. So, you know, mindfulness, as we know, is all about being aware of the breath and the mind and the body and all those sorts of things that come together, you know, that create the, reduce your self-esteem, you know, increase your anxiety, and it can help you manage depression, for instance, as well. Just being aware of what it is you do, you feel and you think in a friendly, kind way to yourself. And it's ongoing. It's never going to stop. And I think that's where a lot of people, and you're quite right, Mick, people think, oh, I'll do this for 30 days and then that'll be it. I'll be fixed, you know. No, it doesn't work that way. Here I am at 50, you know, I'm still doing it. I'm still, you know, every day working on myself and those processes to be kinder to others and better to others, but also to myself. And I think a lot of people see that also as selfish when you take that time out to have some mindfulness or, you know, some time to yourself. They think you're being selfish, particularly as a woman. We get a lot of pressure. I'm sure you guys do too, but we get a lot of pressure that, oh, you're not being a good mum if you're not there 24/7.
Yeah.
But do this stuff to help yourself as well.
It's the best thing that you can, if you genuinely want to help other people, and this is something I think I learned from Tony Robbins back in the 19-somethings, in the 90s or something, is that, and also I think Stephen Covey said the same thing. You know, if you genuinely want to help others, all of the focus needs to go on to you to become a better person, a better example. If you're burning the candle at both ends, you really can't support anybody. You know, you're losing all of your strength. And I can't remember, it might have been Jim Rohn said that, you know, the best deal, instead of if I look after you, you look after me, like that's unsustainable. Too many variables. But I think he said the best deal is I will look after me for you, and you look after you for me. That's
it. As they say, being selfish to be selfless. Because I always say to the people I'm working with, if you're just putting all the focus on helping other people, sooner or later you're going to burn out. And why do you want to rob those other people? So to be able to give them the best, you have to be the best yourself, which means you've got to take time out. And being selfish in that way is being selfless.
Definitely.
How about you, Scott?
I'm just sitting here smiling. I'm sorry.
I saw that. Scott's just sitting there going,
No. Look, I'm massive on the infinite game versus a finite game, and I'll explain, because, like, I'm sorry to be saying so much. I'm privileged today. I've got two men in my life that have meant the world to me, that make my life the beautiful place it is. And I'm the perfect example of the infinite game, you know, and that I've been a finite. I was in the finite world where I was just always trying to win and trying to smash down, take what I can, do what I do. And then I was sitting here with two guys that taught me personal development. So, and since that day, since I've walked into Mick's life, I've been working on me. And the more I work, more I learn, the more I work on myself, the more I realise I don't know, and the more I've got to know. And so it's just growing, and it's evolving, it's getting bigger and bigger and bigger. And there's something I really want to put on the table. I was going to save it for a little bit for later, but I'm going to put up here something I've been talking a lot about lately, and it's about the two triangles. I don't know if you can see that, right? Yep. So you've got two triangles, one's facing up and one's facing down. And they say the triangle's the most strongest structure that we have because it's equal-sided. And our entire lives we've been fed all these pyramids that, you know, we're facing up, we're facing up, facing up. We've got to get to the top of that mountain. We've got to get to the top of that pyramid because that's where the life is. You get to the top of that pyramid and you stand there on your own, you're looking around, and where do you go? You've got nowhere to go but down. So I want to take that triangle, I want to turn it upside down. I want to give everybody, you know, the infinite game. Let's sit here, talk about ourselves. Let's focus on ourselves, make ourselves strong enough that we can support two people, which gives us the ability for those two people to support another two. So then we've gone from 1 to 2 to 4 to 8 to 16. All of a sudden, we've created a support network where we've made ourselves strong so we can make others strong. That infinite game is what we need to be about. That's what I'm about now, you know, and it's about how do I give enough love to people to enable that support so we can build a strong structure. Because if we have a structure like this, which is our current society, where our CEOs are pointing down, they're directing down. The bottom where we are now in society, we're at a level where that bottom level can't handle it anymore because we're sick of the pressure. We're sick of being put down on. Let's flip it upside down. Let's start it so that the point starts here. We wedge that in. We make it strong. We make that one person strong. Then we can grow and grow exponentially. And I'm sitting here smiling today and I'm loving this because the wisdom inside the Campfire Project, what I'm learning, every Thursday night I do a live. Alan talks about being greedy. I'm greedy. I learn it every single time. I learned about bloody menstruation last week. You know, yeah, and I did, but I got to open up, but it taught me to love people more, how to give more. You know, in a time in my life where, you know, things aren't quite clicking as they should be. But you know what? Mick had that last year. He wasn't quite clicking right. But he went back and he's found the infinite game. He's gone back to the infinite game. Where can I grow from? And now he finds the growth. I want more people to see this infinite game, you know, and chase it. And it starts with you.
I don't think you can do it to help others unless you've done it yourself or you are in the process of doing it yourself. And you're willing and open to share it with other people as well. That's the thing. You know, I see some people who are on the track and I ask, because I'm like you, I'm all about learning and how the brain works and all that sort of thing and how I can help others, but they're selfishly hoarding it. And that's what I just don't get. And there's a lot of that going on in society these days, which makes me really sad, and sad for us humans that we can't share that information because they don't want you to get where they are.
Yeah. So when you're in a state of, you know, keeping it to yourself, you're in that, well, it's a poverty mindset. It's not an abundance one. It's in exclusion, not inclusion. And when you include other people, you know that things are always going to be in a state of flux. They're always going to be, the only thing that's constant in life is change. It's always going to be there. And with that, it's always going to be infinite. It's never going to be finite. And as Mick, you were saying, you're talking about business and everything else. And that also, as you said, relates to life. This is what our whole life is. The Campfire Project is, when I put it together, I wanted it to be an infinite game. It's going to be here long after I'm gone. Yeah. And it'll keep evolving and growing. It'll never, you know, nobody will be able to say, oh, it's going to be this in 6 months or whatever, and that's what it's going to be. It will keep growing. The infinite mindset is one that we've all got to have. And when you've got that, then you know there's different people coming to your life. Different things are happening all the time. You're including different people. It's always changing. There is no scoreboard or anything else. It's just growth. And as you've said, Scott, you know, what you're getting out of the Campfire Project is what I've got out of it and what I've got out of other things in my life. It's when I work with other people and just go looking for getting a scoreboard, but just going with the flow and learning and everything else, then the end result is I'm the one who benefits from that, and I'm growing. So I know my life is infinitely getting more stuff into it all the time. The only thing that's finite about my life will be the number of years that I live. Outside of that, everything's in an infinite flow.
Yeah. I'm just going to jump on that for a minute, because I've known Mick for a bit, and I think Mick's been playing the infinite game for quite some time, because his whole mission inside people is to make better people, you know. And unfortunately, I don't know you well enough yet, Zoe, but I'm presuming you're sitting on this panel, so you're no different. So the universe puts us together at the right time. But that infinite life of just growth, its possibilities are endless. And it just excites me so much. And we're talking, one of the things that Zoe was saying earlier about the selfishness and about hoarding that stuff, it's sometimes you've got to go through enough to actually understand that it's okay to share. Because a lot of the times I've found that, you know, there's a lot of different components in life, and you've got to feel safe and vulnerable enough to actually be able to open up to share. You may not have had those experiences. So it's up to others to share your experiences and just let people know that these things have happened and you can learn from them. You know, like Mick, you know, other people's experiences versus your own. The best place you can learn them is, you know, through other people's experiences. So how do you do that? You know, like it's sometimes you just got to experience things, but you got to keep knocking on doors. You've got to keep trying new things. And I think that's yeah.
I think also you need to accept yourself as you are. Not only just accepting others as they are, but also accepting yourself as they are. And things that have happened to you in your life have happened to you in your life for a reason. And like, I won't go into stories, but I've had lots of what people would call traumatic major incidences in my lifetime. And people are endlessly saying to me, how are you staying so positive? How do you stay so positive? And I go, because I keep my mind open. I accept it for what it is. I accept myself. I accept others. And I'm not prepared, I've said this to Alan before, to be a victim. I'm not going to be a victim of my circumstances. I'm a product of my decisions. And a lot of people don't quite get that concept. And I think the development and happens when they're ready for this sort of learning is when they actually accept themselves as they are, and realise that they are a product of their decisions. So they've got to decide to be in it 100%. And I think that's where we're falling down on teaching our children how to, you know, but have courage and be mindful and, you know, not become, as we were talking about last week, bullies and all that sort of thing. So I think, you know, there has to be, and I understand family dynamics and all the rest of it. Sometimes it can be difficult in a traumatic family to actually be able to rise above that. But I think a lot of people out there decide, oh, this has happened to me, I'm going to give up. So they become a victim of what's happened to them.
I think the way we educate our kids as well, we teach them to live in a finite world. Yeah. And so stepping into that, they find difficulty with it. But Mick, as you were saying that, you know, you opened up the you know, into the website, and up came Simon's book. And you then started looking at that and it made sense to you pretty much immediately. My thoughts are that these things, we notice them when we've already connected to them. So as Scott, you had said, you've been living the infinite game through all those years. Zoe, the way you're talking, yes, you've been doing it as well. And Mick, you're living it, and then all of a sudden, as they say, when the student is ready, the teacher will arrive. And so you're already ready, you're living that, and here's the confirmation. I think most of this stuff comes through and telling us, oh yes, you've been on the right track. That's why we get it. It's not to teach us something new. It's to actually let us know that we're already doing that, and this is how it all works. You go, oh, now I know.
I think that was the key, though. This is how it all works, because whilst, you know, Scott was very kind and say I was probably already living the infinite game. And I guess that was probably my intention and purpose. But the method that I was using was finite. And so I think that's why we have this cycle of feeling good and then this and down and up and down. Whereas when you genuinely understand how the infinite game is played and what your role needs to be a player in an infinite game, I don't necessarily think that you get rid of all of the ups and downs, but I think you'd probably smooth out the sine wave a little bit. You know, it might be a little bit smoother, because the days where you would traditionally feel like you lost, you would be focusing on how you contributed to the continuation of the game, the improvement of the game. And so you can be fulfilled and you can feel like you accomplished something at the end of the day. And, you know, I think that there, years and years and years ago when I first started, I was flying around the country teaching time management, you know, in isolation. It was just, that was the only topic that I taught. And at the conclusion of learning what I needed to learn to be accredited to teach this stuff, I came to the conclusion that time management, you know, obviously is a furphy, like you can't manage it at all. And it's, you know, the term really should be self-management, but it's not about how much you can get done each day. Like, I think genuine time management is really the ability to manage your emotional state. That's the real key to it. And I used to tell people that you know, when you feel good, you'll do good. So, and when you do good, you feel good, and you end up in this upward spiral. And when you don't feel good, you don't do so well. And when you don't do so well, you don't feel so good, and you end up in a downward spiral. And people try to change that by changing their accomplishments, but they're measuring this thing that's probably out of their control. The thing that is in your control is doing something to make yourself feel better, because then when you feel better, you'll do better and you'll get on this upward spiral. And, you know, thinking back, that's kind of an infinite mindset. And all of these things are starting to make sense. But I think that the Infinite Game book, which, you know, Simon Sinek himself doesn't take credit for. It was a book that was written in the 80s. I forget the name of the author that he read that inspired him about this. And he even felt that it was unnecessary, or it should be unnecessary to write this book, but here we are, he said, you know,
That's it.
writing it. And I think he just put it in a very nice, neat, understandable package, and it's great for you if you're interested in improving your business experience, and it's equally important reading, I think, if you want to improve just your general life experience, because it just takes the thing that I always remember about the whole experience of reading it was an image that he talked about. You kind of get up each day and you walk to a signpost, and the signpost says this way to victory, and this way to fulfillment. And you've got that choice every day. Like if you turn left, you're going into that win-lose place, and you might come back feeling good, but you might not. Whereas if you turn right and go for fulfillment, it's not about win-lose anymore. It's about contribution. It's about learning. It's about supporting others. There are just so many ways, no matter how crappy your day gets, that you can contribute and come back from the day feeling fulfilled. So turn right.
Because if you turn left, it's a 50-50 type scenario. If you win, somebody else has got to lose. But if you go to fulfillment, everybody can be fulfilled. And therefore, that's a win for everybody in that particular state. You're not in competition. It's like we say, you know, being the man or being a man, which is the most important. Well, being the man, you're out there, you've got all the competition. You've always got to look over your shoulder. and you're always, fearful of everybody else. But if you're a man and everybody else is a man as well, we come together and we complement each other, and we don't feel threatened. We actually feel the camaraderie. So that's the fulfillment side.
Yeah.
The victory side is when you're trying to be the man.
The word that you use, competition, and I hope I'm right, because I've been thinking this for 30 years. So it'd be a terrible time to find out that I'm wrong. But I was led to believe that the Latin root of the word competition is to conspire together. And so, like with our builders business Black Belt, it's a bunch of builders that are in the same industry. And honestly, hand on heart, I didn't mean it to turn out this way. It was the people that were in this group, and Scott was part of that group a few years ago. And I've never come across a group of people who are so caring and sharing. And it's the exact opposite of what you would think a group of people in the same industry would be. And I just remember some years ago, we were having a full day meeting. We call them intensives. And one of the newer ladies in there, Andrea, who's still in the group, and Scott knows Andrea, was just asking a question about a certain procedure. And another lady in the group, who was one of the first ladies in the group, her name was Cara, said, well, I've got one of those. And it turns out she'd been creating this process for 2 years. She's put 2 years worth of effort into creating this process, and just says, I'll send it to you, to Andrea. And she's just put 2 years worth of work and just handed over to a lady she'd only just met that day. And, this group of builders have come to understand that working together is the best way for both of them to do well. And it doesn't matter whether they've got the shop next door to each other. That's the best guy to have in your group, is the guy that's right next door to you. So you can share, support each other. One will be up while the other's down. You can help each other. You can share resources, all this sort of stuff, and everybody wins. And I've been promoting that forever. And, the penny drops when I read the book that's kind of infinite thinking as well, like keeping your cards close to your chest so somebody doesn't have an advantage over you is finite thinking, and everybody loses. And like having groups like this, I just love this sort of stuff, because and we transition from a standard garden variety one-to-one type business coaching to a group coaching model some years ago. And the pace at which people grow is around about 4 to 5 times faster with this group model than it is with the one-to-one. And it's because if you can get a group of contributors in the same room, and that's their purpose, and everyone brings an idea, you walk away with 30.
Yes.
But if you get a group of people together that are in there for what they can learn, like they might be good people, but they just want to learn. You don't walk away with as many ideas. If everyone just brings one idea,
that's it.
We walk away with a lot of ideas, and it just speeds up, and that's part of the infinite mindset, I think, is what's your best stuff? Share your best stuff.
That's
well,
it.
the other thing too is that...
Hang on a sec, sorry. Before I play the finite game, I'm going to plug my computer in. Hang on a sec.
The other thing too is that the brain is a muscle. So, and I think a lot of people don't realise that we've naturally got part of the brain, I think it's called the amygdala part of the brain. Yeah, amygdala or whatever.
Yeah.
That naturally has a fight or flight response. But with today's world and today's society of do, you've always got to be doing something to prove that you're a worthwhile person. That part of the brain is switched on all the time. It's no wonder that so many of us have depression and mental health issues and anxiety and all the rest of it, because people need to understand that learning how this finite, infinite sort of thing we're talking about and mindfulness helps to calm that down, which actually helps you to relate to your world better. And sometimes you just have to be like you just have to sit and do nothing and look out the window instead of doing all the time. It's like a distraction, which causes all that adrenaline and everything else and all those hormones to heighten, which causes the depression, which causes the fight to flight. And I think this is where, and I've mentioned this before because I get on my soapbox sometimes about this, education is really letting kids down because they don't understand that to be anxious about being somewhere high is normal because it's your protective mechanism kicking in. Your fight and flight is kicking in. That's okay. But what we need to try and do is not dwell on what we're thinking and feeling, recognise it, accept it for what it is, say, oh, if I walk one step further, I'm going to end off down the cliff, but not be worried about having to be in that control where there's that finite thing might happen to me. And so mindfulness quietens that down. And that particular part of the brain opens up again. And that's where you come back to that giving, liking yourself, liking others, being more tolerant. And I really think this is where we're letting society down, adults and kids, shoving them on medication. Instead of teaching them a few tricks like breath, it really is as simple as that.
Yeah.
Take a step back from what you're thinking and feeling, recognise it, then let it go or calm it down by just taking some breaths. It's as simple as that. And I think we're making it too hard for people to help.
It's a worthwhile soapbox to get on. Get on it.
I do it all the time. People glaze over and I go, okay, I've been doing this too long.
The soapbox has got two purposes. One, you can get up there and talk, and if you're short like me, you can stand on it and see over other people's shoulders. You go for it in both. You get it.
I'm with you on that front, Alan.
But the thing is, I look at it and go, well, from what you were bringing this together and thinking about what Mick started off with, business and life is all an infinite game because there is no winner, there's no loser, there's no time frame on it. It just goes on. You don't know when it's going to finish. None of us know where our end is going to come unless we committed suicide. We know then. But outside that, it's an infinite situation. But our education, the way we run our businesses, everything is in a finite basis. Yep. And we're wondering why we've got all this mental issues and angst and pressures and bullying and domestic violence and everything else because we're also confused. Yep. So if we're able to, first of all, understand what the infinite game is all about, fully understand that, and then look at the things that we're doing and ask ourselves, is what I'm doing within the infinite game or is it part of the finite game? If it's part of the finite game, how do I now change that to come back to an infinite game approach to things?
And it really is that simple too, Alan. That's what people don't get. They think they have to work hard and push hard and, all those sorts of things. It really is that simple.
All the things that we tell people to do, fake it till you make it. Love that one.
That's awful.
Throttle the person whoever said it because it was act as if. When you act as if you're already there. It's like a character actor. Fake it till you make it. You're never there. But it's all these terms that we put on ourselves. As I just said, work harder. You got to work hard. And we tell our kids that get a job, work hard all your life. You get a superannuation scheme, and they're going, well, why do I want to work hard? And so we wonder why we've got opposition from them. Then we pressure them to fit into that role. And we wonder why they end up neurotic.
Yep.
At school.
At school before they even get to work. Yeah.
That's right.
Yeah.
But it's fascinating listening at the minute because you can literally apply the infinite and finite game to any scenario. And if you simply ask yourself that question, is this an infinite decision that I'm making or is it a finite decision I'm making? Am I looking to win this? Am I looking to grow from this? But my question that it's coming to me at the minute, and it's a little bit of the Stephen Covey is, like you go from dependencies through to independent through to interdependent. Can you skip either one of those skills, the dependency to understand, to become independent, but to allow you to actually even look at a finite way of living? Because if you don't have those first two, you haven't evolved enough as a person to actually be able to play the infinite game. So how do we help people do that? Because at the end of the day, there's 4 people sitting here that, you know, our focus is to help people play the infinite game. How can we do that? How can we teach people to love more? How can we give people more love in what they do? How can we help people get over those bits and pieces? So do you have to go through that?
I'm not
Yes,
quite sure.
I think you
I don't know
answered
whether
the
you
question.
do or you don't, but I would think that to fully understand something that's really being interdependent is a combination of both having been of dependency and being independent as well. And you really need to know. It's like people say, oh, I want this little bit of a grey area, and I go, well, where's black and white? If you don't know where the boundaries are, you can't find where you are on that scale.
Yep.
And you're always looking for a different shade of grey and going, well, am I there yet? Well, you don't know because there's the boundaries. So I think to a certain degree that, yes, you need to have experienced that. And we do go through that in life. If we think of the learning process where you're unconsciously incompetent when you don't know you can't do anything, then you become consciously incompetent. Now I know I can't do it, like driving a car.
Can't do it yet.
Can't do it yet. But then the next stage from there is, and that's the thing, getting that thinking in place as well. But taking it through those 4 stages, the next one is when you are competently competent.
Consciously competent.
That's the one. See, I got lost. I haven't got to the 4th one yet, where you're unconsciously competent, where you just do it without even thinking about it because it's become part of it. And I think that unconscious competence is that interdependence. We just do it without even thinking. It just becomes part of us. But to learn how to do that, we need to go through the other things. But the question is, how much time do we spend in those other areas?
Yeah.
As long as is needed.
Yeah, I'm gonna throw something out there.
There's no finite.
Yeah.
Sorry, go on.
No, it's all good. I'm going to throw something out there that I've been sitting with for a little bit, and so this could rock you, or I could be dropped on my head, either one. But my basic theory on life is, and from what I'm sort of observing with people, you know, the first 20 years of your life, you spend learning. You spend learning all the different things which other people will give you. The next 20 to 40 years, so it's from 20 to 40, you sort of, you learn your own skills, you get your own practices, do you know what I mean? And then from 40 to 60, you're implementing those skills, and that's where you gain your true wealth as such. And then from the age of 60, which is funny for the retirement, because it seems to be that's a point where you either, from 60 and beyond, you teach everything you've learnt in life and you give it to the younger generations for them to take a hold of and grow from that. So then that becomes, you know, the infinite game. Or you retire and you go into the grey nomad thing where, you know, like you move away from society. And I personally think the grey nomads is not doing us any good, because we're missing that opportunity. Because in an infinite game, we're basically all plagiarists, because we're taking the knowledge we've learnt throughout our life, and every single one of us experiences things in a completely different level based upon what we've experienced in life. There's no way known that we can all look at this pen and think about what we do with this pen the same way, because we've all had different experiences on the things we've written. So and this is for me something that I'm becoming more and more passionate about, is just getting the age groups and generations to actually flick through each other again, because we're missing massive opportunities of infinite life because we're not getting that plagiarism. And it's, maybe I'm mad, maybe I've been dropped on my head, but it's just the way I feel about things.
I think that's, I love what you've just said. I think that's partly society and that's partly our fault, if we're looking for fault. Older people, it doesn't matter what age you are, really, actually, you need to feel like you're being useful. And it doesn't matter what, you know, whether you're male or female, what it is. You need to feel like you're being useful. And I think today's society, you get to a certain age and people view you as being fairly useless. So I think all this wisdom that you're talking about, that we go through and that we learn from others, is lost, which is such a shame.
Can I ask a question on that? Is it the fact that society thinks you're useless, or that you think you're useless? Because from what I'm observing with, you know, look, I've got different generations of people and very different ways of living, where I've got guys well into their 60s, and they're learning and living. Like I spoke to David Morowitz the other night, and it was the most amazing conversation. 75, he just wants to give now. He wants to give all his stuff and his knowledge. He wants to give it away. Whereas, and his technology is not his thing. So he went, where's my stepfather? He's 70 years old, and he himself thinks he's got no value. He's made that decision that he's got nothing. Doesn't matter what I
think it's both. I think it's societal too, though, unfortunately.
There's a combination of things. If I can answer on behalf of us oldies.
Thanks, Alan.
Hey, there's a bus.
I wasn't talking. If you want to include yourself, go right.
I am. I'm including myself.
That's what age you're talking about here.
Yeah.
Close to the big 6-0, like 65. That far away from it.
Yeah. Well, I'm pushing the 7-0 at the moment, so there you go.
No.
Looking good, Alan. Looking good.
Not very close to it now. But one of the things is, yes, the way we grow up, what we accept in our life, everything always comes back to the decision that we make. Nobody can do something to you. We accept that. It's always a decision. So once we realise that, then we're in that position. We start asking ourselves, well, what have we done? Those people who have competed and tried to be the best all the way through life, because that's what they thought they had to do, if they haven't got there, they're going to withdraw, because how can I talk to people because I haven't achieved? And they will shut down and move away. The knowledge that they've got, if we could get them to talk, would answer a whole lot of different generations, give them advice on how they could then look at their life and get them to question what they're doing. Am I playing the infinite game, or am I playing a finite game? Am I trying to be the man or the woman? And in that particular thing, then getting lost. So the grey nomads, if you can sit them down and have a chat with them and get them talking, it's like a lot of the people who are listening to this on the Campfire Project, the offer has been out to everybody to have a chat one-on-one and to talk about their story. And a lot of people say, but I don't have a story to tell. It's your story. You do have a story to tell, and it's an important one because it's your story.
Yeah.
And people will listen to that. They want to learn from that as well. I was travelling in Sydney. I went from one train station to another, a couple of stations away into Central Station. I got on the train and I got into the very first section where it's a flat level before you go up or downstairs. And everybody's moved into the up and downstairs because there's a guy sitting there. He's a hobo. He's obviously, living on the street. He's covered in dirt. He's got his rags over him and everything else. And I went, I'm too lazy to walk up the stairs. I'm only going to a couple of stops. So I just went in and sat in the same cabin where he was sitting. And we got into a conversation. I almost missed my station because I was enjoying the conversation so much. What he talked about, he sounded more articulate and better educated. I'm going to say more educated, better educated than everybody else in the rest of I looked at it the rest of the train. Yes, they looked the part, but I doubt I would have had as good a conversation with any of those as I had with him. And to hear his story and find out what it was like in what he does, but he was talking about politics and other things, and I'm going, where are you getting all this knowledge? Where are you actually getting the up-to-date information? He was actually telling me things I didn't even know were going on those days. So we miss a lot. Everyone's got a story to tell, but some people will then, they learn, they're experimenting, they're taking in new knowledge all the time, and they go, geez, I want to share this with people. So they go to the other extreme, and they're out there helping. But I know when I've walked down the street with you, Scott, you stop and you talk to everybody and get into conversations. If we did
have a chat.
Yeah.
You don't want to ever get anywhere in a hurry. That's all I can say.
That's exactly right. I didn't know your last name was, what is your last name anyway? I think it's Havachat, isn't it?
Yeah. Oh, look, but here's the funny thing, right? And Mick touched on it earlier, and I was going to wait to talk about it, but now it's probably right. It's relationships, right? So where do you get your knowledge from? Where do you get your opportunities from? Like, my whole life, and last night I did something for the first time where I just presented myself and talked about my life. And, I went through, and it's sitting behind me, all the years. And what I was trying to represent was, like, I've had an amazing life, like, truly amazing. I've done so many different things. I've been so many places. I've just, but every single one of those things came with a relationship, and a relationship that I've built. Like, I'm sitting here tonight with Mick Hawes and Alan Stevenson. I'm sorry, Zoe, our relationship hasn't started, but it will. I've taken my relationship.
Hold on, Zoe. Hold on.
But here's the thing. Look at the richness of my life because of these relationships. Now, you know, I'm just this little Scotty from around the block, but I know that at any time, if I got something, I can go to Mick, I can go to Alan. I've just got this depth of people that make my life just so beautiful. I'm living the infinite game because I've got people with me that have had different experiences that can share things at different times to get me through the next bit, to give me more plagiaristic things I can put out to the world. But it's, you know, and it's, so does it just start with relationships? Because if we have these relationships and we make them deeper and stronger, like it's, you know, like,
I think it definitely starts with relationships, and let's face it, we're a pack animal like any other animal. I don't care what it is. We need other people. We live and learn and feed off other people, and we need that in our lives. So I think you've hit it on the head. It's definitely relationships.
But we also need criticism in our life. Yeah. We need criticism because, and that's the
only way you grow, isn't it?
Oh, massively. Like, you got two blokes sitting here that have slapped me around silly, slapped around by Jerome. Even Mick enjoyed it yesterday, letting me know. But it's, without it, we don't grow. And that's, you know, and it's learning to do that. Like we were talking before, Zoe, about how, you know, in the schools, we've got to teach people. I think number one thing we can teach people is how to have relationships. At the moment, I'm working with Oscar. Oscar's not my masterpiece, but I love watching him grow. And I'm learning consistently from him. And he's been playing tennis, and you know, Mick knows a fair bit about tennis and mindset, and I'm working with him on that. And we've worked on Swiley, we've got him on that, and that's a dependent game. You're on your own. You're dependent on yourself. And we sat down tonight and we talked about it. So ironically tonight, I said, mate, we need to play a team sport. He goes, what for? I said, look, you're doing a great job of playing tennis on your own. You're doing awesome, but you need to know how to work with other people. Once you can learn to work with other people and you can be dependent on each other, you become, you know, then you grow again and you learn a new set of skills, and you can learn to not necessarily lead men, but you get to work with men, and, you know, so you build team skills. Once you've got that and the team skills up and running, then we can start working on taking the bar up to leading those teams.
You see, the way you've approached that is fantastic, because too often for children, they're aware of what they've done wrong or what is wrong, but it's not explained to them what's good about them. It's like when you train a pet. Like a friend of mine's got a puppy dog, and she's at her all the time about what she's doing wrong. So she learnt that behaviour of what to do wrong, and all she has to do is give that dog some praise. It's like human beings. We love praise. We're more likely to listen to something that we can help them to develop if we give them some praise first. And they know that they're not on their own to work this out. That's the other thing too. And that's what's lacking when we're talking about relationships and families. That's what's lacking a lot of. We're always told as kids, you know, don't do that, don't do that, don't do that. And I think you've gone about it the right way. You've told him or talked to him about what's great, but how about we try this? Might be the next step. So you're making a suggestion about what might be the next step. You're not telling him what to do, and you're not just focusing on what's wrong. You're actually giving him some praise and saying, look, mate, I'm here. I've been through this myself. I'm here to help you. I know how this might help. How about we give that a go?
Yeah, because it's simple ways to bring this together, because that's doing it where you're speaking to the person and guiding them through verbally. Whereas with Mick, when he's brought these people into his organisation, they may have come in thinking, well, I just want to improve my business and make more money and things like that. But in the environment in which he's set up, those people then doesn't take long before they start building a relationship with each other that moves on to collaboration. That's and then right. Together, as they say, you know, a husband and wife, they are complete on their own. But when they come together, they actually magnify what they're capable of doing. It's not a matter of, you know, my better half or my other half. They don't complete me. They complement to a level where we go even higher again. And that's what, when you do bring an organisation together and people collaborate, they have the relationship, They're focusing on how they're moving forward together, and that's an infinite game. Whereas when they first came in, they had the finite game, which was, how do I make my business better? How do I make more money in a given period of time? And we hear it in business all the time. What are your goals for this month? What are your goals for that? And we're actually teaching people to be finite in that. We need to be also reinforcing the infinite side so that they can go, okay, you do have to do some planning, but not just go bogged down in it, that we put these barriers in that we can't get out of. And then we go home, we teach our partners that, we teach our kids that. And so we're reinforcing it all the time. So it starts with us to change the way that we're thinking, start making sure that what we're doing is an infinite game, and then collaborate with other people so that, yes, we can guide them by talking to them as we do with our kids. At the same time, when we're dealing with adults, they don't really want to be told, but we all learn from observation and being around other people. You can't help but change. When you change doing what you're doing, you change the environment for other people around you.
Yeah.
And that's where leadership comes in with things like the business black belt, bringing people into that organisation.
Finding that the big shift that happened reading The Infinite Game was I got really, really clear on what my just cause was. And I kind of knew it before. But again, I think what I was doing every day was trying to help business owners or builders, as you were saying, Alan, earn more money and to be able to compete in a finite way. And when the penny dropped, I've really changed my messaging and I'm really clear on my daily purpose, which is to contribute to, and my just cause is to significantly change the building industry norms, because they are so destructive and through so many layers. It's not just so builders can get paid for their quotes and all of the things that I carry on about and jump up and down about, talk about soapbox, Zoe. But the layers that come from that when a building business is successful and does it correctly, the customer wins significantly more. They enjoy their experience and they get the most value that they could possibly get for their budget. But the people that are on the team absolutely love showing up to work every day. So they then go home, they're employed, so they get to take money home, but they also get to take a really positive energy home, which affects the family relationships, which affects the kids, which affects the kids' future. Yeah. And so this one just cause that I'm trying to affect this, it seems like I'm just want to change the building industry, but in my mind, if I can change these ridiculous practices that are just archaic and destructive, the pebble in the lake, the ripples that flow out can be profoundly positive in every way, and that's what I love about these conversations and groups like this, is that we just through us sharing our experience and our opinions, somebody might listen to this and they'll have a different thought tomorrow than they would have had if they hadn't been affected by this. And what are the effects of that in their relationships with their work people, with their families, and so on, and into the days, weeks, months and years ahead from this one conversation. And it's so important to have a cause that you can contribute to every day. I think that's the secret with the finite game, is getting clear on what cause you want to contribute to. And the thing that I learned about that was you don't have to create your own cause. You can join somebody else's.
That's it.
As long as it floats your boat, as long as it gets you up early and keeps you up late with a positive energy, it's a good thing.
Yeah,
exactly. So I look at it and I think, well, we hear, one of the things I've been on my soapbox about is people talking about building a business relationship. And this is why I'm bald here. I just keep going like this all the time. And I say, look, there is no such thing as a business relationship. But everyone's focusing on a business relationship. I said, because businesses don't talk to each other. It's the people in the business who talk to each other. So when a person talks to a person, not business to business or business to customer, B2C, it's H to H, not even P to P. person to person. It's human to human.
Yeah.
And when people start to do that, they start to realize that the relationship they're building with their customer or whoever it might be is a personal relationship, and they understand that's personal. Then they realize, oh my God, that's with my spouse, that's with my children, that's with my community. And they start, then the relationships just become, as I say, I teach a person in one area, they're going to use it everywhere.
Mm.
And once they realize that it's not just for business, it's for everything, that's when it starts to become part of what they do. And therefore, as you said, Nick, once they've got they're working on their business and then they're changing their relationships with other people at the same time. You're not just helping somebody build a better business. You're helping them to build a better life, which therefore that life, they are the environment for everybody else around them. And if their life is improved, so does everybody else's life improve.
Yeah, 100%.
Yeah.
So like in men's groups, I looked at most men would be in there trying to work on themselves and everything else. And I thought, well, what happens when have you got there? How do you know you got there? It's like finish a course at school, at university or whatever. You might get top marks in it, but how do you know that you're any good at it until you go out and put it in the workplace and actually go and apply it? So for a man in a men's group has to go out into the rest of the world. And there's a lot of people out there who don't want to see changes. So you get both male and female trolls who will try and put them down. So they get put down. They think, oh, I haven't learnt that. They run back to the men's group. That's one of the reasons why we've always had women in the group here as well. So the men would have women listening to them. The women would interact as we've got here. Thanks very much, Zoe, because this has been an example of what I really wanted from the very beginning, the women and men having conversations and sharing together. And in that, once a man's come in here, is doing some work on himself, he knows with the conversation he has with the women in here that he's there. He's got that confirmation. And who's the person who gets the most out of that? Yes, we feel great about where we've got ourselves, but everyone we come in contact with, which is our spouse and our children, our community, they are the ultimate winners. Mm. Men's groups are about getting better yourself, but we together in the Campfire Project is all about how do we become a community and everybody connected to everybody else. And I say that's definitely got to be the infinite game. Mm.
I'm sitting back smiling, thinking about the times I was with Mick and all the team, because like it's some of my best memories are sitting in there in an intensive with people that we're all going through our own pain, but we're sitting there, we're trying to come up with ideas, working through things. And it's these relationships got so deep because we're sitting there working through things. And I think the number one thing that I think, Mick, you taught me, and which I think has been one of the biggest parts of my growth, come down to the fact of what can I learn from this? I think learning is the actual key to the infinite game, because if you're either green and growing or you're ripe and rotting, and that in itself is the one thing that, and I talk about Oscar a lot because it's in my life, and it's the one, his only job in life is to learn. That's it. Everything else is negotiable, but learning's not. Once I started to learn, and it's funny, and I'm going to talk about a subject that was in a closed group, but I had a business partner. And we were trying to work through a pretty tough situation. Mick took us from over 300K in the hole down to 120, and things were starting to move forward. One of us was choosing to learn and the other one wasn't. Mm. And you can tell which one. Yeah. I went through a lot of interesting opportunities, but because I took every opportunity and learned from it, whether you like me or not, I'm not fussed, but I'm happy with me. Mm. I know that I can hold myself strong. I know that I can support two people, even that sometimes, like things aren't quite going right for me. Mm. Mick last year, he's supporting quite a few people. Things weren't going right for him. Mm. But sometimes you keep pushing, you keep trying to learn, all of a sudden something pops up and clicks, So if you're looking for somewhere to start, just try something, learn something. Mm-hmm. And, it's one of those things that I wish I had a whiteboard and stuff. I've got a whiteboard, just draw on the wall. But inside your life, if you're living in your life, you're living in a square, that's your life. You're in the middle of that square. And if you're standing in the middle of the square looking forward, you can only see two walls. Turn around, you can still only see two walls. You don't get to see all of your life. So how do you get to work on your life? You either get outside that box, go somewhere completely different, and then have a look inside the box. You got to eat something different, be with something different, be completely different. And you may have the opportunity. Alternatively, go and get a coach, someone who can support you, sits outside the box. and directs you around that box of life and gives you an opportunity to see things differently, because you need to see things through a different set of eyes in order to change the problem that you're in. You know, so you got to make sure that person is empathetic, not sympathetic, because they get in that box with you and start looking around the room. You're standing there face to face, talking to each other, but you can't see what's going on behind you. You're standing side by side, looking at the same walls, or even worse, you're standing back to back to see what's going on everywhere, but you can't communicate.
Yes.
So it's so important to have those relationships and to try new things, you know, and don't be scared to ask, because...
So, Scott, can I ask you a question?
Please.
What was the difference between you and your business partner then? Was your business partner just closed off, wasn't ready, wasn't aware, didn't think there was a problem, and you were more open-minded? So what do you think the difference between you was? Why did you go one way and he went the other, or she?
I'm actually going to put this on Mick.
Oh, great.
and the reason why is it's a self-analysis, whereas somebody who knew both of us.
Were you ready? Was Scott ready for it? Was he aware of issues and wanting to fix them, and this other person wasn't? Or because I think this is the clue that we need to find, what's going to help people open their minds up to.
Keep in mind, I love this bloke, and it hurts me not to have him in my life. It really hurts me.
Yeah. I'm just talking about mindset and what was the difference.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
But
No.
I want that to be very clear.
Yeah, I'm not talking about personalities. I'm just talking about mindset.
Because this is the depth of the relationship that I had with him that I no longer have. So to get this out and to find out what were the differences, let's do it.
Yeah.
So
Do they have to be ready, or?
Yeah.
What does that mean?
I'd love to have a really good answer. I really would. But like there are so many variables. I think Scott came when I first met them both. Scott was definitely more enthusiastic, and so that has to have something to do with what was going on well before I came into the picture. As far as what was going on in the business, Scott's business partners, a big part of his role was to be presented with the financial situation on a daily basis. Scott was kind of out doing stuff, meeting people, you know, and pushing through. And I know that, like in other cases like that, where there are two business partners, or it might be a husband and wife, or it might be actual business partners, the one that gravitates to the financial management is always significantly more pessimistic because of what they're being presented with every day, what they have to manage. They're getting the phone calls, you owe us money, you know, and the other partner is out there, you know, we need a new truck, let's go to the bank, and, you know, going, getting all excited about doing stuff. And the other person is trying to, you know, plug the leaks in the dam. You know, that's a part of it. Like, there's just so many reasons. So, you know, I certainly can't cast judgment and say why that happened that way, but I can certainly see that there were a number of contributing factors. And I think that much of it happened well before I knew both those guys. So my answer is I don't have an answer.
That's the thing, the thing I would like to find out. Like, I've had kids come to me who, one little boy, ward of the state, he'd been thrown out of every primary school in the southern part of Tasmania, and he was about to be thrown out of another primary school, and the principals before this particular school were just closed, shut down. They didn't want to know, it was too hard, all that sort of thing. But this other principal that I happened to be working with was prepared to listen to what I respect, what I knew that he might not have known, and actually didn't in this case, and work with me to help this child. And that's what I'm trying to find out. How do we make that connection for people? How can we help them to be ready, open-minded, aware and ready to take on this sort of development? Because there's people that will just go, you know, bugger off with the airy-fairy hippie stuff.
Comes back to our awareness as well. Like, listening to what Mick, you've just said then, the one who was closer to the money, the way I'm looking at that, it was more around the finite game that they were running, because they're looking about the expenses and everything else, where the boundaries and everything else were. When a person's out dealing with the public and everything else, you've got all those energies and you're seeing possibilities. And so that's more the infinite, of the direction that person's on, that infinite game of direction. With some of those principles, some of them will have very much the finite game. This is a curriculum, this is what we do, this is how we work and everything else. And then you have the other groups that have, what do you call it, that are looking for possibilities. So it depends on whether you're looking at constraints or whether you're looking at possibilities. So to find, when it comes down to it, it's how we talk to those people. If we're the ones who want the change, who wants the change? I do. So who's got the responsibility? Oh God, me. So then I'm the one who's then got to find a way around that. So the more I can understand that person, where they're coming from, I can then speak to them in a way that they haven't been spoken to before, that steers them to start thinking differently, presenting new information.
So finite then, if we explain what finite is, it's like a focus on limitation. It's a focus on, whereas infinite is open, isn't it?
Yeah.
Because there might be people who listening are going, what, you know.
Yeah.
So we've got,
Alan said, you know, life is an infinite game. And it is, because it actually continues on even when you're gone. Like, it just continues on. And that's the real bit that I didn't get. It was like, I've got to keep doing this until I've gone. No, I've got to contribute to something that is going to continue on well after I'm gone, like Alan said with the Campfire Project. You know, we're just the current custodians of it, and we're giving it fuel and polishing it up and making it better while we've got it. But it has to be built in such a way that it is attractive to get newer and younger people involved in the cause as we go. So when we run out of juice, they will carry on. And that to me, that's the real infinite game. And if I can contribute to the building industry, so that is different in the future, and I'm gone, you know, I'll be super happy.
It's like at the moment, my whole game is to create and train my competition, so that it goes on. It's to bring the right people into the Campfire Project, so it continues after I've gone.
Yeah, perfect.
It's living my legacy now and leaving a legacy for later. So I'm not just building something I leave, but something I'm also living as well. But there is one thing that is very finite, and that's the amount of time that we've got in these panels. We've gone, as usual, usually put us an hour aside, we've gone over the hour. So I think we should finish off at that point, but I want to really thank everyone for being along here today, for Mick, for Zoe, and for Scott for coming along and sharing all your wisdom and contributing so much as you do to the Campfire Project, because at the end of the day, it's only what it is because of all the people who are in here. So thank you guys for being here.
You're welcome. It's been great.
Great fun. Thanks for the invitation.
I just want to say, thanks very much for the phone call to let me know red and white. That was great tonight. I appreciated that. Red and white tonight. I'm very happy with that. Next week we'll change.
Yeah. What are you wearing tonight, Alan?
Absolutely. I really appreciated that, Alan. It was good. So, but just quickly though, and I know it's Alan's panel, but this conversation, if it finishes here, it's a finite conversation. Let's make this, pick it up, talk about it, let's share it. You know, like this is the beauty in life. Let's plagiarize the hell out of it.
Ask everybody out there, ask all the questions, put questions in the comments field, start conversations with each of these magnificent people. And in that process, that'll then generate another panel discussion, and we can keep it flowing. It's like all the ones that we're running, we've gone off into all these different fields, but they're all starting to connect and everything else, and we'll bring them back together. We'll then go out again. This is, I look at this, and my legacy and everything else is like a never-ending pack of Tim Tams. I want to keep eating the Tim Tams and enjoying those. And then when I finish, there's a full pack for someone else to take it on. And all these conversations should be treated the same way as well. So there is no end to it. So great point, Scott. Thanks very much for that. And guys, as I said, thanks very much for being here. And to everybody who's been listening in, thank you. And we'll see you on the next Campfire Project. Bye for now.
Thanks, guys.